Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Minnickbach. I am currently a third grade teacher and I am here to deliver a staff development presentation on instilling growth mindset in elementary math education. So before we get started, I want to talk about the need for professional development in the area of growth mindset. In a survey conducted across the United States of teachers kindergarten to 12th grade, there has been a huge need for professional development. There are 40% of teachers who identify that they have no training and they want some, and then 45% of teachers who have some training and they want more. So that's a collective of 85% of teachers who were surveyed. So that's a large majority of teachers who really want to learn more about how to integrate growth mindset in their classroom. Therefore, today we will be talking about what is growth mindset, why is growth mindset important, how does growth mindset apply to mathematics, and how can teachers integrate growth mindset into the classroom. So first we're going to learn about what is growth mindset. So growth mindset supports the idea that the brain is malleable and it can be changed. So the idea that the brain is not fixed, we are not born with a certain intelligence or a predetermined path of things that we can do and we can't do. The brain can learn anything and anyone can learn anything. So students with growth mindset tend to embrace challenges, they learn from feedback, they show persistence, and they're open to new ideas, and they have a more flexible way of thinking. So this image here shows fixed mindset versus growth mindset. So fixed mindset is the belief that intelligence is static. We know what we know. These people with fixed mindset tend to avoid challenges. They don't handle criticism or feedback well. You're just focused on yourself. You are threatened by other people and their success. You don't take well to failure. And you don't always want to put in the most effort. It's a lot of negative things and a lot of characteristics that we want to steer away from our students developing. But rather we want to focus on growth mindset. And students with growth mindset have the belief that intelligence can be developed through effort. So, we're focusing on challenges, learning that mistakes are okay to make and mistakes help us learn, focusing on the process of learning rather than just an end product. So we're focusing on really learning the material rather than just getting a good grade or a good end result. We're taking in feedback to help us learn. So this is a lot more productive, especially in a classroom environment. So let's talk more about why growth mindset is important. So teachers find that it is easier to teach students who possess growth mindset skills. So again, this is another graphic from the survey of kindergarten to 12th grade teachers across the United States. And it focuses on the fact that when students have characteristics of growth mindset, like grit and perseverance, and that intelligence can be malleable, rather than it being fixed or static, those students tend to be easier to teach. And so when we look at the number of teachers here who say it's very easy to teach students who have grit and perseverance. They put in a lot of effort, they want to do well, they want to learn. Rather, you look down here at students who are believing that intelligence is fixed or static, and no teachers are saying that it's very easy to teach them, and you have a lot more teachers saying that it's difficult and very difficult to teach students. And as a third grade teacher, I can vouch for that. When you have students come in to your classroom and they're saying, I can't do math, I'm not a math person, math is boring, math is too hard for me, it's a lot harder to teach them math. You have to really work on their perspective of math and instill some growth mindset in these students to really help them understand that you are capable, you can do math. It's unacceptable to say that you're just not going to try. So it takes a lot more than rather just hitting the ground running with a student who is very eager to learn and eager to put in the effort. And it's also important that entire staff and building and schools are aware of growth mindset. We want to give our students consistency, and we want to be portraying similar messages between teachers in different grade levels and also just among staff members throughout the building. So like I'm saying, by the time students come to me in third grade, I have students saying they can't do math, they're not good at math, they don't like math, a whole bunch of these negative things, where we want to give them in kindergarten, first, second grade continuing on throughout their education, a very positive foundation for math that will set them up to be successful long term. And we also want to have any interventionists, support teachers, learning support teachers, your grade level team if you have any sort of switching of students throughout the day. You want the messages they get from all teachers and staff members to be consistent. Because, then that's sending mixed messages. They're saying, is it okay to make mistakes? Is it not? How am I supposed to approach problems and challenges? We want to show some unity amongst the students as a staff. And when we look at this graphic here of teachers saying some teachers think that they are pretty familiar with growth mindset, but they lack confidence in their administrators and even more so in teachers in their school. So you really want to, bridge that, give teachers confidence in each other, and fill any gaps of misconceptions with growth mindset. So how does growth mindset apply to mathematics? So, like I said, I have students, they come to me and they say, I don't have a math mindset. It's boring. I'm not a math person. It's too hard. I can't do math. You have the parents at parent-teacher conferences who say, I'm not good at math. My kid won't be good at math. And people have a very static approach to math. And many people have the impression that math is either a can-do or a can't-do subject. And that is not true. And we need to dismantle that idea. Math is something that everyone is capable of doing. And so we need to transform math to be something viewed more positively and help people have a more positive mindset. So how can growth mindset support a positive mathematical mindset? So when we look at this graph here, we're showing a control group and a group that had growth mindset intervention when it comes to mathematics. And you can see here we're looking at GPA. So we started with two groups who had a very similar GPA, and the students who had growth mindset intervention, their GPA drastically increased. Whereas the control group, their GPA decreased. So it's showing that when we have growth mindset in a mathematics setting, that students will have increased achievement levels. And we're giving them strategies and showing them, you're going to put forth hard work, put forth effort, and that will pay off in the end. So how can we achieve this? How can teachers integrate growth mindset into their classroom, and specifically their math classroom? And teachers can do this in multiple ways. A few that I will touch on today is establishing equity in the classroom, making learning accessible for all students and encouraging mistakes, allowing all students to feel represented in the classroom, and providing purposeful feedback and praise to students. So first, I want to talk about equity in the classroom. So we want to make learning accessible for all students regardless of their gender or their race, socioeconomic status. We want all students to feel like they have access to the content that we are teaching and the math content in specific that we are teaching. So there's so many surveys and research conducted about how there are genders and races that aren't represented in the STEM field or in the mathematics field, and that needs to change. And I feel that that change starts in our classrooms and giving students the foundation and the mindset that they can be successful in math and that they can do math. So one way to do that is displaying posters. I have some posters examples here. They were a free TPT product that I found from Prince Patadina, and they feature various different athletes, motivational speakers, scientists of different genders and races, and it allows all of your students to feel represented in the classroom. You want to have students see someone in the mathematics field, in the STEM field, that looks like them and that is successful. So they, start to develop the idea, they did it, I can do it too. And you want to have various types of role models. And you want those role models and successors to not be something that it's like, wow, someone of this race or this gender achieved this. You want it to be a very normalized thing for your students that you are capable of doing this. They did this, you can do this too. You also want to be very aware of the language used in the classroom, and I'm going to touch specifically on praise and feedback. So when teachers praise their students, you want to focus on praising effort or praising the process that students achieved rather than their intelligence or maybe a good grade. So when teachers praise effort, they're giving the students freedom to make mistakes. They are recognizing students for what they did, And we all know that based on Bowler's research and her books, that mistakes are when students are learning the most. So as Duick said, every time a student makes a mistake in math, they grow a synapses. So that's when we're building connections and students are really, their brain is changing. And so praising intelligence is detrimental to students. They feel the pressure to continue to be viewed as smart. But when we praise their effort, it gives the students motivation to keep working. So when we look at this graph here, referring to the number of problems that students solved, in the green line of students who were praised for their effort, they achieved and solved more problems. Whereas students for that orange line, they initially started with achieving more problems, but then they achieved less and they solved less problems when their intelligence was praised. And as a student, I can relate to this. Being, when a student, I was praised for being smart, for being intelligent, for getting good grades, and I felt the pressure to keep that perception and to keep getting good grades, to keep solving problems correctly. And it forced me to take a very meticulous look whenever I was doing homework, taking a test, because I was afraid, what if I make a mistake? People are going to view me differently, rather than just being praised for you tried really hard, you put in effort, and having that motivation to keep going. Teachers also want to be mindful to not give students comfort praise. So that's when students are maybe saying they're not good at math, they don't like math, they can't do math, and teachers are being comforting. They're kind of sympathizing with their students. And we want to give students strategic and specific praise and feedback to where they strive to be more motivated rather than just staying in that fixed mindset. So ways we can do this, like I said, are highlighting specific actions that the students did as far as their effort and as far as the process they did in their learning. So instead of saying, good job or great job, you must be smart at this, great job, you must have worked really hard, praising the effort. Instead of praising getting a good grade, like an A on an English test, you studied really hard, you made improvement, because whether our students get a 60% or a 90% on the test, we still want them to strive for improvement, for more growth. Instead of calling students smart, saying they're a good student, telling them what they did that was good, that, the strategies they used, the way they were concentrating and working hard, you want to tell them what they were doing well. Teachers also want to take a very reflective look at what are your own perspectives on growth mindset. Do you model this for your students? As teachers, we need to practice what we preach. So if we're putting up posters in our classroom about growth mindset, or bulletin boards in our classroom, and telling our students they need to model this growth mindset, we need to be showing that to them as well. So it's really important for teachers to believe growth mindset is important and, respond to mistakes positively. Recognize to your students, hey, I made a mistake. And it speaks a lot to your students for you to recognize that, and then also how you respond. You want to utilize and attend professional developments. You want to model to your students that you are a continual learner and you are still continually growing. And specific to mathematics, you want to show math in multiple formats and representation, showing students that if you want to think outside of the box and take on this challenge, you might make a mistake, and that's okay. So we want to encourage mistakes, and we want to welcome questions in our classroom. So before I leave, I want to leave you with a couple key points. That growth mindset is important for students to believe that their hard work will result in more learning. We want to instill the effort in students. It's important for all staff members to be on the same page because we want to give students consistent messages. And teachers can incorporate growth mindset in their classroom by being aware of the language, the praise, the feedback we give students, and making our classrooms very equitable. So here are the references that I used to make this presentation. I'm looking forward to any questions or comments you have in the discussion thread, and I thank you for your time listening. Have a good night.